Hey guys, Cody Wilson of theassistantcoach.net. I've been doing a series of videos here for a while, and we're trying to bring you a video every Thursday through the Assistant Coach. And the Assistant Coach is here to make you a better coach. I'm here to try to help you be the best assistant coach and one day head coach, coordinator, whatever it is you want to be, the best that you can be. And we're trying to give a video every Thursday, and we didn't do one last week for Thanksgiving, but the week before we talked about gap families in the run game, and this week I thought it would be good to follow up and do zone families. But before we do, if you've been watching, even if you haven't, and you've liked our videos, or if you're interested, please like and subscribe below so that you can see our videos every time we do one. And if you haven't checked us out on Facebook or Twitter already, please do so, and go check out our website at theassistantcoach.net. So there are three families. We talked about there being four families in gap run game. Power and counter, pin and pull, and sweep type plays. And there are three families for zone running game. And that is the tight zone, the mid zone, and the wide zone or stretch. And the reason why I split them up this way is it's not so much that the blocking scheme changes very much. We're going to block the same people, but we're going to block those people in a different way. So the thing that distinguishes them is really the aiming point and the purpose and what happens when you're trying to run this play. So first, let's talk about the tight zone. And people do this a little bit different, and some people kind of muddy the waters a little bit between these families, but this is the way that I do it. So if I have my running back here and I'm running tight zone, for me, tight zone, he's going to hit this thing from the inside hip of the guard, backside. Somewhere in that range is where he's going to hit this play. So I really like the tight zone. I really tell my running backs to really aim for the play side hip of the center. Like, I like that thing as tight as possible. Okay? And the reason why I like that is because it's a very downhill run play for me, and it plays well off of my second favorite play, which is power. So both of those are very much straight downhill run plays, and they play well off of each other. Now, what happens with running tight zone is, yes, people preach all the time about zone. It can bounce, it can bang, or it can bend, and that is true. But what I've found, at least with how I run the play and how I block the play, that very rarely do we get the bounce. Most of the time, we're going to hit it in the Playside A gap or backside B gap, really, and sometimes backside A. But this really hits backside most of the time, and I did a poor job drawing this because if we have the quarterback here, he's given backside, so it's like this. Okay, now the reason why it hits backside most of the time is because these blockers here on the backside, a lot of times it ends up looking kind of like veer, and some people talk about the inverted veer and stuff like that, but they really get good washes down the line of scrimmage. So while we're talking about that, let's talk about what we're doing and what's important about this. Because my running back, his shoulders are pretty close to being square to the line of scrimmage. Okay, this is our line of scrimmage. They're parallel to one another. And my offensive linemen, their shoulders and the way they are going to block is going to be the same thing. We're going to do what I call jab and pop. So we're going to pick up one foot, put it down. What most of you would consider a false step. We do that for timing and to create momentum because we're going straight ahead. So we're going to jab and we're going to pop. So we're going to jab, pick it up, put it down, and then we're going to pop. So like a jab, boom, it's a jab and a pop. And we're going to try to get position, and we can get into a whole lot more detail about how and when we do that. But my running back shoulders are going this way. I want my lineman shoulders going this way. Those two things are tied together. If my linemen are like this and my running back's going that way, that's not good. There are lanes opening up, and I'm not really protecting my running back that way. And that's going to be a theme as we go throughout this. But that is running the tight zone. Now, in times where we want to run wide zone or stretch, and we're going to skip the mid zone for a second. When we want to run stretch or wide zone, well, then that's a little bit different. Okay, instead of going off the play side butt of the guard, or even the the inside butt of the guard, or the play side butt of the center. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to chase the outside hip of the tackle. Okay, so this is what most of y'all are used to seeing out of pro-style teams, where that quarterback is really trying to chase and get over there from under center. What we've seen, the first guy I think of doing that is Peyton Manning, and how he's known as a non-mobile quarterback. But for years he did that, and that is a very hard thing to do because you're trying to get your guy outside. Well, we are taking those wide steps, and we're going, we're planting, and we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. On that fourth step is where we want to make our decision as we're chasing the outside butt of that tackle. That's where we're going to make a decision if, again, theoretically, if we're going to bounce, if we're going to bang, or if we're going to bend it. Now, what I would say about this is most of the time I do not call this an outside run play, even though this is wide zone or stretch. And some of y'all might be scratching your heads a little bit about that because, oh, well, wide zone, it goes outside. Well, with the way that I teach my linemen, again, if my running back, he's getting the ball, he was going like this for tight zone. Well, he's turning, and his shoulders are now like this. Well, my linemen, they're going to mimic that. My linemen's shoulders are going to be that way. We're going to be working in that direction too. We're going to do a brace step where it's kind of what most of you would call a bucket step. We're going from here. We're going to brace and pop that way. Or some of us, if we're uncovered, we're going to do a square drag where we're sliding to the side. But the idea is we're going to be going in that direction. Our linemen are going to be moving. Now, I would agree with you in saying that the play hits about 2 yards outside of the tackle. So if we have a tight end, it's going to be really close to where that tight end is. If we don't, it's going to be, again, about 2 yards outside the tackle. That's typically about where the play hits. Now, the thing about that is all these linemen have moved. So they're moving with the brace and pop and the square drag and stuff, and they're getting across the field down here laterally. The play is going to hit about here, but by the time the play hits there and the running back gets there, oftentimes he's cutting behind the guard or maybe even the center. It's definitely going to be behind the tackle, but sometimes it can cut behind the center, and by that time the center is over here. So we would have center, guard, and maybe tackle like this, and he's going to be cutting behind those guys because they have moved with the play. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes it'll go outside, but most of the time that's what happens, and most of the time that's what I like. If I really want to get outside and try to outrun everybody, I'm either going to throw a perimeter screen, or we're going to do jet sweep or toss sweep or something like that, where we're going that way in a hurry. Here, we're still taking an angle towards the line of scrimmage, and I'm trying to make guys think outside, and we're looking for creases where people are not fitting correctly. Okay, so that's tight zone and wide zone, or the stretch. Well, thirdly is the mid zone. And mid zone is something a little bit new to me. I've still been trying to figure it out, but it's a happy medium between the two. We're taking a little bit wider angle. And for me, that angle, instead of being on the guard here or on the tackle here, we're aiming for the B gap. Okay, that would be play side butt of the guard. Instead of inside butt of the guard, play side butt of the guard, or inside butt of the tackle, but somewhere in that B gap. And some of y'all are thinking, well, that's where I hit my inside zone. Well, that's fine. If you hit inside zone like that, that's great. More power to you. You're making it work. But really and truly, there can be 3 different types of zone. There can be inside, outside, and this would be your mid zone. And you can see very easily on our gaps up here how we have inside zone in the A gap. Outside zone is hitting essentially where the C gap would be, but again, it's going to be behind sometimes players that you wouldn't call the C gap, but where the C gap starts off on the grass on the field, and then we're going to hit the mid zone in the B gap. So you can see how we're getting all of those, and I would suggest to you this is a really good idea and a plan to have, because you want to be able to attack the defense in all the gaps. That's why so many pro-style teams have carried so many different plays for so long, is because they've wanted a way to attack different gaps of the field. The same way that we attack different areas of open space in the pass game, we want to be able to attack those different bubbles of space in the front, in the defensive front. Okay, But here about the mid zone, what we're trying to do is we're trying to feign or fake a little bit stretch zone and get backers to run out of there, and then it becomes kind of an inside zone. We're taking 1 or 2 steps and then we're trying to hit it downhill, more like inside zone. So this really comes in handy when we're trying to get people to overplay. So tight zone is we're hitting it tight and backside, trying to get people to misfit and hit it backside. Stretch or wide zone or outside zone, we're trying to hit it wide, we're getting out there, and then we're going to cut up inside, but we are doing it way out there. And then mid zone, our angle is we're making them think stretch, and then we're turning it up really quick. We're wanting to run inside zone, but we're wanting them to think stretch first. Now that might be the way most of you run that, but that does change the blocking a little bit. So here, there's a distinct difference between inside zone, I'm going straight at you, I'm jabbing, I'm popping, I'm going straight at you. I'm trying to get vertical movement, and I'm trying to keep playside players playside, and I'm trying to cut off backside players. On stretch, we're turning with our brace and our pop, and we're trying to push people outside. Again, I'm trying to keep them outside because most of the time we're cutting inside my tackle and inside my guard and all that. Backside, we're still trying to cut off. On this mid zone, we're going to try to take and reach guys. We're going to try to take and reach guys from the guard back here. The tackle, he can still try to stretch people outside and keep them outside, but there's a distinct difference. We're trying to fake and then that reach, and you might be wondering, well, why don't you do that on outside stretch? It's because I'm still trying to run inside. Well, here it's a lot quicker. I'm looking the same way as the back. I'm looking like I'm doing outside zone. And then immediately I'm trying to turn up and cover somebody up. Now, if it turns out that I'm hooking him and we get a run lane, well, hey, that's great. If it turns out that I can't and I drive him outside and we get a run lane here instead, that's fine too. But those are some of the basic principles behind that. The tight zone is hitting in the A gap, wide zone's hitting in the C gap, and mid zone's hitting in the B gap. And for some of y'all, that might be too much. But if you have an offensive line that is capable and you have a good offensive line coach, because the technique behind all of these is more important than anything else. It's easy to tell a running back, run towards his 8 or run between these 2 people. It's easy to tell them that. A little bit harder to make sure you get the backfield action right, but easy to tell them to do that. But if you have an offensive line and an offensive line coach that can block the same guys just in a different way, you can really get tons and tons and tons of mileage out of the scheme of zone, because schematically you're blocking the same people, but fundamentally you're doing it in a different way and you're giving the defense a different look every time. So you could theoretically have one run play and it be zone, be these 3 variations of zone, and be able to attack, like we were saying, all the different areas of the defensive front. And you can do that to the other side as well. And then you can add tags to them where you're running split zone and you're blocking the backside in. You can do the RPO game off of it. You can do all these things off of the one thing zone and get tons and tons of mileage out of it. But anyway, that's just my opinion on it. If you've got different ways of doing it, I would love to hear about that in the comments below. If you have any questions, hey, let me know, ask. I would love to tell you more about it. Again, this was just the overview, trying to tie in these families and categorically how I think about these things. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, like, share, all that good stuff. Until next time, peace.